All right, so we are recording. Also, I did not check if everyone is here or not, right? Quickly, let me check. Sometimes I'll just try to toggle, right, and it will not work. Okay, so and one person is missing. That's the Ismail, right? Okay. All right, so let's continue, guys. First, we're going to talk about the use context hook. I explained a little bit yesterday, but today will be more clear, right? So before that, let's try to just read through this content and then explain. So the use context hook in React. So first of all, when I say hook, right, in functional component, we all know hooks are built-in function inside the React. You have to import that, and each function or each hooks has a special purpose, right? So we have looked at use state for our state management, use effect hook to deal with the outside, right? Or to deal with the effect of the component. Like if you want to fetch data when the component load, or you want to take any action when the button is clicked, right? In that situation, you're going to use the use effect. That's the like a old way of doing things, right? There is better way also, which you're going to learn maybe in the future, right? But for now, we must understand this, okay? The effects of the components and the use case of our hooks, right? We know use state to basically create simple variables. When there is simple state management, right? Single variables, we can use state, okay? And for the deal with the outside world, like the APIs and all that, right? We're going to use use effect. Okay, guys, I think Ismail is here. Yeah. Hello, Ismail. Can you hear? Ismail is still not feeling better, right? I think he's still sick.
Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, we just started, right? So today we are learning about the two hooks, use state and use effect. Use reducer, right? Two hooks. Okay, so we just started. Please pay attention, right? All right. So let's continue. So we understand the use state and use effect for now. Let's continue with our use context, right? Now we have learned the props in our React. Props is what? Transfer the data from one component to another, right? From basically, let's say you import one parent component, one child component to parent, and from parent you want to give the data, right, to your child so that it can display in the page. Okay, so we understand the props also. If there is many components inside the, like in a chain, right, and you have to transfer data from top to bottom, it's difficult, lot of chaining, right? Difficult. So how you can transfer data easily using use context hook? So just remember, this hook is used for like transferring data, right, from anywhere. If that component is wrapped inside this use context provider, right? So what is provider? It's just basically a component, okay? And you just wrap your parent component inside here so that all child gonna have access to the data, right? So if you look at the definition here, use context hook is in React. So basically in React is a way to access context value, right? It's called context value, but basically data in a functional component. It provides a way to share value between components without having to pass props down manually at every level of the component tree, right? So you don't need to use the props. Basically, after using this, you can share data to the child, right? And there is a process how you're gonna configure all this. So that process we're gonna look at. So here are 3 steps we're gonna follow. Okay, like you have to first create context, then provide context, and the consume context. Like you creating the context, provide the value, and then consume it, right? Consume. So this is the 3 steps we're gonna look at. In the use steps, these 3 things you have to take care, right? First, you need to create context using the create context function. Look at this. That is first. Second, you wrap it, right? Your parent component with provider. Okay, so use the provider component of the context to wrap, right, the part of your component tree that needs access the context value. So wherever you need to, like, whichever branch, right, or component you want to pass down the value, you can just wrap that one, or you can wrap the main component, right? So all the child can have access to that value. So this is the wrapping up with the provider. That is the second stage. The third one is consuming, right? So we're going to use context now. So here is create context. First you create, right? Create context function. Then you wrap with the provider. And then you're going to consume it with the use context. So this is the 3 steps we're going to take here, okay? So we have the simple, basically counter, let's call it counter app, right? Counter app, okay? So let's go and write a code and try to understand there, this 3 stages, okay? What I'm going to do, let me close, I think I have another, I don't have open, right? Let me quickly open that new project I have created today, just to make it a little quick. File, open folder, and so if you have any question, that I know it's a little difficult to understand, okay, what is provider, what is context, what is the, like, a consuming data and all that, right? This is just a process, okay? You have to, like a writing formula, right? From one to another to another. These 3 steps you have to understand, okay, when we use the use context, right? So where is that? Inside document, I believe. Inside the React, third one, right? So I created the third project today, and then added some routing and all that, right? So we're gonna just look at that. So I will start the project first, npm run dev, right? Let's go live view. And you can see something like this, homepage counter, all that, right? There is a footer. Quickly, I will explain the project here. Once you install this React project, right, what you will get? You're going to get the source folder with maybe the main app, index, CSS, root, all that, right? Basically, I added the root for our routing. So we have done that one before also, okay? You install the React router DOM, then create a root file and put all your routing here, right? By using create browser router. Clear? So right now I just have the route. Basically, this app is my parent component, right? So element parent, that is a parent component. And then in the same, look at here, in the same object, I put a children, right? And add another array, and inside array, I'm adding all the children component now. So that's why when I open the home page, right, it will be the child of app. When I open the counter, it will be child of app automatically, right? See, normally what we do, right? If you have app like this, okay, let's say this is the app, right? This is the parent app. For example, you can put something inside here, maybe home, right? Or maybe counter. So it's same thing. When you're going to click the route, right, this home will display inside here. Same like this. This app, this home will be inside this app component, right? So whatever there is a div inside returned by this app, or maybe empty, then this will be the main component, right? Inside, but it's the child of the main component app, okay? The route, the way we have added route to make a children of the main app, right? Even you can add it separately, okay? You don't have to put it like this, right? You can create, let's say this is the first one, for example, right? Let's close that. This is the first. You can add second, you can add third route, like that. So they all will be this, like they all will be separate route. And then you can put it, like let's say in the app, inside app, you can have home, counter, whatever, right? Just put all there. Okay, so now they are also the child of app. There is different way. Either you can put it like this, or you can just put it, if you put like this, right, this way, then you don't have to later import all this inside the app. Okay, you just click the button, this component will be loaded inside the app automatically. But if you add it, like in this format, right, then all the component here will load when the main component load. That's the difference. Okay, so let me delete this. Let's clean this up. Fine. So we know how to create a root, right? We know how to create a root. The root will be imported to our main JS here. You need a router provider. Look at this provider now, right? Why is provider? This router provider is also using context API that use context, create context behind the scene, right? Because you want to transfer this router to all the children of, like all the children, right? Down the chain, okay? This functionality, the routing functionality must be available to throughout the project, throughout this app, right? That's why you need this router provider. So we're going to create our own provider for this counter app later, right? So you get the idea now. You will see something like this in different places, right? But just when you see something around providers wrapping, whatever, passing the data, always get the idea of create context and use context, right? The same functionality is inside this component. Okay, so we know the use context is used for transferring the data, right? But how are we going to do that? Let's start. So first thing, right, what we're going to do is, okay, we understand now, we have two components basically in the page, counter and home page, which is, build, added to our link navbar here to the app, right? So app has navbar, and then there is an outlet. So when you click maybe counter, that counter will be displayed here, or you click home, the home will be displayed here inside this app. Okay, so there will be always navbar on the top, there will be always footer on the bottom, but in the middle it will change from home or maybe counter or maybe any other route, right? Because app is our main entry point, right? Main component, which is passed to our router provider. Basically, like this router provider, right, has the main children, that is app. Look at this. That's why app is passed as the main component, and the remaining is the children, which will be displayed in place of outlet. So I hope that is clear now, right? The whole configuration. So we got the page, like in the page, we have counter and home. I created context, right? Just created context folder and added the context counter provider, because I'm going to create, the context basically for the counter, right? Counter app. Okay. So the first thing what I have to do is import create, right? Create context. Okay. Then second thing is, like use, right? So what I'm going to call this, let's call this counter context, right? You can call it anything, but counter context equal to create context. Remember we did that yesterday also, same thing. So this will be a little different than yesterday, right? Yesterday we just wrap our app with the, like counter context provider, but we're going to create component, separate component, right? totally here. Okay, and then whatever app you're gonna wrap, like app or anything, right, it will be passed as a children later. So you'll see. So we have done that. Counter context equal to create context, finish, right? Now we're gonna use this here, right? So what you will do is basically just return that, but we have to do few more things. Counter context, you're gonna add here, right? And then you wrap it dot provider. Okay, so now let's say what I'm doing now, right? I'm just wrapping here in the, and I'm returning, like I'm returning, right, inside this counter provider component. Okay, so now the app must go inside here, right? So that will be basically children, right? So let's add that here. Children, you must receive that as a props. Children. So this is the configuration mostly you're gonna see right everywhere. Fine, we created that. Now we're done. So we're gonna export. You're gonna need this later, right? When you're gonna use this context. Okay, so export this also, and of course we are exporting this, right? Counter provider. Now this counter provider is ready. Fine. So it's not ready yet. We will see, right? But we're gonna pass the value also, correct? We have to, we have to pass the value, right? What value you're gonna pass now? Value. We're gonna pass object. So this is the counter app, right? So I want to like add like like you're gonna have the count, whatever count, right? Maybe for now is 0, whatever. Then you're gonna have something like a increase, decrease. So I want to create all this functionality, right, and pass to this value, so I can use later somewhere, right? Wherever I need to use, I'm going to use it. Okay, I mean, we can just pass one value and test it, right? But I want to show you a little bit extra. I mean, just add some extra functionality, right? Instead, I told you we're going to pass anything. Okay, so I need a count. I need a way to store my count, right? So what are we going to do is, let's use our use state hook, or simply use state. Fine. So here, so remember we created the context. This is the first thing, create context. Then we are providing here, right? Providing means you're going to provide the value to the provider. Okay, and then later we're going to consume, right? So this is the first stage, this is the provider, second stage now. So and then we're going to consume later, right? So I need to create a value. Okay, I don't have value yet, so I'm going to create a value first, cons, right? So I'll just call it count and set count. We know that from our use state already, right? Count will be 0. Simple enough. That is the first thing I'm gonna send, count. So right now the count will be 0, right? If I go and consume somewhere, let's consume this, right, and check. So let's consume it. So where we're gonna consume? My app is here, right? So I'm gonna consume here. I'm just gonna wrap, and because I want to like display that inside this children, in the counter children. Okay, this is the children of app. So let's do that. Import, sorry guys, here import counter provider, right? That is the one. Yeah, because remember we just need this component now. We don't have to worry about all this now, right? Because whatever component you're gonna pass it or wrap it, that will be the child node of the React, right? And that is what we are displaying inside here. So it's same thing, it's same thing like wrapping your like app, right? Like this, same thing. Okay, that's the same process. So let's do that. Import counter provider, right? And then you're gonna wrap this here. counter provider, basically put the app inside, right? See, same thing. So now when you save, it will just wrap it because you have many line of code, so it will just wrap it, right, like that. Fine, done, right? So now we're gonna consume it because we are passing right now count only variable which has 0, right? So let's try to consume that. Go back to our page and the counter here. So import, we need to import that counter context, right? That is the one, counter context. So remember, we need to get this one, we need to do that. So this is the consuming process now, right? Also, you're going to need a use context, right? To use that context. Done. So we have this and use context. So how we use that? Basically cons, right? I mean, right now we just passing one value, right? One value. So okay, we are passing as an object. Okay, so let's keep it like that. Count equal to, and you call the use count, right? Use context, and you pass counter context here. Fine. So you're gonna display this. So let's add here, right? Heading 1. We are working with the use context, and then maybe heading 2. Count is, and now just call that count, right? Count. So let's see if that work. So now we have to go live view and check, right? So here, see, this is the home page. If I click on this count, we are working with the use context, and count is, we did not get count, right? So maybe there will be some error because we are sending 0 value, right? Console, and okay, so we did not get that count. Okay, so let's see how we are passing, right? Oh, okay, we just passing the value. We're not passing object, we're just passing whatever value, right? So no need to do the object. What we can do is we can console log and check, right, what we are getting back. Okay, so here what we can do is just console log and check. Console.log count, right, and see what we get. You must console log above the return, right, because return is all HTML. So now I mean, home page, there is some error in the home page, I don't know. Counter not available, something is not available. I don't know why it's not working. Okay, let's do one thing. I'll just keep it like this, right? Simple variable, and see if I'm getting back something or not. Yeah, so now it's here, right? Okay. Because what maybe I have done is, when you pass number, right? Remember, when we pass number, you have to put it, I mean, of course you're going to put it like this, right? First you have to put this, and let's say you want to pass as an object, then only you put another object inside, right? And then call the count. So that will be basically, passed as an object, right? You get error here, but it's passed like an object, okay? Already, and we are not using that properly, right? Fine. So let's go back now and check. Let's see. You have to now we are passing object, okay? So you cannot just take it like that. You just destructure, right? And then take a count again. So you see the 0 is here. So it depends what you are passing, like normal number or maybe object, right? That is the difference we have to, like look at when you are writing code, right? Okay, so we got this object. You see the value is passed, right? If I change the value, maybe what we're gonna change, right? Let's change here something like a 10. Okay, and see it update, right? 10 is printed here already. Look at that. Fine. So we go now one next step, right? And we're gonna create some functions inside here. Okay, so let's do that. Const. What I will do, I'll just copy paste quickly. I think I spend a lot of time here. So we're just gonna create simple function like this, right? Like const increment, const decrement, something like that. Okay, and I'll just place here. Not here in the context provider, right? So yeah, fine. And now you're gonna send this increment, decrement, increment, decrement, right? So look at this function. What this function is doing, when you're gonna call this function will increase the count, right? And that count is passed back again, and that is what gonna change. This decrement will decrease the count, right? Look at here. So we have the variable, and even we have the functions we can pass to our context provider, right? And we can use it. So let's do that. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna create a button, right? So let's call it increase. Maybe another button called decrease. And when unclick, right? So here now, you are passed all that as an object. Remember, so we have that increase, decrease, right? You have all that function. So the spelling must be correct, right? Same as here. Okay, increment. If the spelling mistake, then there will be issue. So make sure it's same, because it's the function name, right? Decrement. Okay, so now we pass the data, we pass the increment, we pass the decrement, all this function, right? We can use it here. So what we're gonna do now, right? When we click, you want to call the callback function, and then just run this increment. This is a function, I just call that. When you decrease, unclick, you have your callback function will run, and that will call the decrement, right? Look at this. See? So let's try now, see if this will work. So I'm gonna, you can see everything here, right? Let me expand it. Okay, let's expand. You see the increase count 10 right now. Okay, so increase, see in 13, 14, right? Decrease, look at here. So what we understand from this, right, that you can wrap the functionality in your counter provider, right? You can wrap whatever you want to pass, okay, and use it anywhere throughout the app, right? Which is the part of the, which is wrapped inside here. Basically any component, right, which is wrapped inside this provider. Okay, so we just created the formula, right, like a base, and you just call this counter provider, wrap it anywhere. Once you do that, the children of that app, right, or children of that component gonna have access to all the functionality, whatever data you are sending as a value, right? They will access that. Maybe function, that will be maybe just normal variables, anything you're gonna send, this child gonna have access. So we that is clear now, right? Any doubt on this? Anyone has any question on that? You have to try, right, couple of times. Okay, just think like this. Okay, the app is the main component. inside we have the counter app, right? So how, like from somewhere, like from the counter provider, right, from somewhere, from other component, right, how my counter app is getting all the functionality. That is all we are doing, right? So you created all the functionality in the one of the funcs component, counter provider component, and then you are consuming that, right, inside the counter. So that is the whole 3 steps, right? So there is one more example, right? If you get time tomorrow, I know you have project to complete for everyone, but here is like a same thing. You have seen the dark mode, light mode, right? How are you going to create simply something like that? Okay. The same thing is here, right? You guys can try. Okay. Same concept, same idea, right? Consuming the context and then use the provider, right? Okay. So you can give a try, right? Next is useReducer. So until now we have looked use state to handle the simple state, like to store the simple variable, right? But let's say, for example, you have the e-commerce site, shopping cart, for example, right? In the shopping cart, just try to first understand, right? Very simple concept. I'm going to talk right now. Let's delete this. Let's say you have shopping cart here. You're going to add some product, right, in your cart. Imagine that cart is nothing but our, like let's call it const cart, right, equal to this array, and you're going to add product 1 like this. When you click one of the product, right, that product will go inside this cart. So it's going to have ID maybe 1, name is maybe pen, and maybe the price is there, right? Price will be let's call it $10, and the quantity, right, quantity maybe right now 1, right? So you have the button of the product, somewhere. This is the product button. You click on that, add product, right? The one quantity added, and this whole thing move inside your shopping cart, right? I mean, basically this array is displaying in your shopping cart, like maybe whatever item you added, item 1, just have a name, maybe price and quantity, right, in a shopping cart. Simple. You added another product, will go inside this array again, second item. But later you come back, right? You come back and, oh no, I want 2 pen. Again, you increase the quantity. So how are you going to increase the quantity? Because you don't want to add second pen inside your array, you just come and increase the quantity here. So see, these are the state, right? Every variable, every property is a state. Okay. When you increase the quantity, the price must increase here. Pen become 20 price now because of the 2 quantity. So this complex state management, how we're going to handle, right? So this is one example. Okay. For now, first we understand simple redux, right? How it works. So not redux, but use redux, right? useReducer, not redux. I mean, redux using the same idea, right? Our hook is useReducer. So how it work, right? That is what we can understand. So let's go back. What I will do is, I'm not going to delete all this, but I will just add maybe second counter, right? Counter app, maybe JSX, like that. Okay. So here, this will be for useReducer, right? So first thing you have to import always useReducer. This useReducer works similar to useState. Okay. So const like that, right? And you call useReducer inside your component, right? So earlier you pass the data here, right? Like simple, you passing maybe 0 or maybe some string, something like that, right? It's initial value. But in useReducer, it takes 2 things. The function, right? We call it reducer function. let's call it a reducer, right? This is a callback function, reducer. And the second is initial value, right? So you can pass here maybe something like object or maybe some, some simple value, but this is what, normally you're going to do, right? These are like a variable. So let's create something called const initial value, right? init initial value equal to, what I will do, I'm just going to put in the object, right? Count right now is 0. That's it. Simple. I can maybe just, like if I don't have object, right? I just have count. Maybe I just call it count equal to 0 and I call the count here, right? Basically the value. For now I have object, simple object, right? Reducer is a function also. So you're going to create const reducer like that, reducer function, right? Fine. So you have reducer function. So this function, when you execute, right, what we get back now here, you get two things. State. So state, right now state is what? This initial value, count equal to :0. This basically, this object is the initial state. So state will be whatever this, right? And the second thing is the dispatch function. You can call it anything, that, but normally that is what you use, right? Like normal language, the wording, dispatch, dispatch, dispatch function. So we are talking about useReducer, right? And how you can implement that somewhere, okay? What this does is use for handling the complex state. But first, we're going to take simple example and just use how to use that, right? But let's look at quickly the definition, right? Before even we move. Next is, let's go back here. So here, right? The useReducer hook is another way to manage the state in React, often preferred for more complex state logic, right? Than use state, okay? It's like a big brother of use state, right? It is similar to how you will use a reducer in Redux store, right? So Redux toolkit is the library for managing the state, complex state. Similar to that, right? It works in the same way. So you will define the reducer function that determines how the states will change, right? In response to action. So there will be action and the reducer function will basically do the action, right? Do the work for us. And the action will be dispatched, right? Through the dispatch action. This is the dispatch function which will dispatch the action. So let's, try to go through and understand, right? I mean, fine. So let's see. So we have this reducer function. Let's complete the reducer function first, right? And then we can implement in our project here. So this reducer function will get two things. One will be the state, right? It has access to the state, the current state. And the second is action, right? Action. So action, later we're gonna pass the action through this dispatch function. Okay. And then you're gonna write all the logic, right? So let's do first, like some of the action here, and then, complete this reducer function. Okay. So for heading 1, we call it counter app for reducer, right? Use reducer. Next will be what we're going to do, right? You want to display the count, right? So let's add it here. Count is, and you're going to put the data later, right? But remember what I said, the state, it coming from this state, right? This state is right now the initial state, okay? Right now is this. And we're going to create a function which will change this initial state, okay? This state will be changed, right? And once the state change, what happened? It automatically update, right? So this state is object, so we can call it state dot count, right? I think we have a count inside, so count. Fine. Let's, we don't have this one inside our routing, right? So let's quickly add that also. Here I'll just copy this, and let's call it counter, maybe app, like that. That will be counter app. You have to import it. So counter app, right? We got that already. Next is update our app here, make a link, copy, and counter. We just added that, right? So when you click that one, it will go to this link, and we call it counter, like app, right? When you click this one, let's say when you click this in our root, that is the app, right? Inside this component will move in. Okay, that is all. So for now, let's quickly go and check one time here, right? See, counter app is here. Let's click, and counter app for the useReducer, and count is 0. See that? We're just getting the count already. Now it's time to implement our other functionality, right? So let's continue. So what I'm going to do is we're going to add again the 2 buttons, right? To increase and decrease button. So increase and decrease, right? Decrease. Fine. So now what we have to do, right? We're gonna call this dispatch function here. Okay, so how we can call that? When you click the button, that is on click, and you have to call back function always. Okay, on click you're gonna have a callback function, right? And then you call your dispatcher. Okay, the dispatcher job is to dispatch the action, right? Which will be like an object, and you provide the type of action, that is, just provide the name, right? Like PYPE type, and what action we want. This is increase, right? So let's give it increase action, right? And same thing for the decrease. So decrease, right? So let's call this decrease. Okay, fine. Let's delete that. Now let me make it a little big, right? So you guys can, I don't know if it is clear or not, but so see, when you click the button, right, this dispatch function, I mean, of course we have the state, which is right now the initial state 0. State dot, because state is what? Object, right? This object. So object dot count, here we are displaying. Now we have a dispatch function which is going to dispatch the action to increase, right? So now we have to write here the like the functionality, right, for all this dispatch. So you can do like this also, if, right, if let's say action dot type is equal to like increase, incr increase, right? Then you want to return, maybe return what? You have to change the state now, right? So your state is here, return, you're going to return the object because that is the object, right? So whatever inside the state, that object is basically right now only one item, so I don't have to worry like a spread operator, like adding all the objects property and then change whatever, right? You don't, there is only one. In that situation, you just change it, right? So what is the initial value of the state? Dot count, right? Whatever the initial value plus 1, that's it. So whatever the value right now plus 1, and you can write else if, let's say this did not match, right? Increase did not match, then you can write else if or maybe else, right? Else, no, not else. We have, let's add it else if, or just separate if again, right? Better else if. How we write that here, right? And same thing, action dot type, okay, equal to decrease, right? It must match this one, decrease, fine. And then you write again, same here, with minus, right? So that's it. So look at, this is the formula, right? How you're gonna implement useReducer. First thing, you execute useReducer, you have reducer function, which you have to write all the logic, right? So if you have, let's say you have the shopping cart, now you have to write shopping cart logic for everything, like increase the quantity, increase the price, like change, add item to the cart and all that. There will be complex one, right? That will be difficult to understand for now. Just follow this path, right? How we just implement simple increase and decrease functionality, okay? With only one value, one initial value, right? Single, we don't have like 10, like quantity, price and all that, right? We don't have, simple one value. All right, so let's go back and see if this works. Oh, not here. That is just, we're not using provider right now. Simple, so decrease, look at that, decrease, get -1. So I'm inside the counter app, right? Can I increase this? So look at this, increase, 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 see, decrease, right? Okay. So that function is already working. This function is working, right? So you can write if else like this, or also you can use switch, right? Better, you can just call the switch function, or basically our switch, what do you call that, condition handling, right? The switch will take, like, if something is true, so action dot, if there is action dot type, whatever type, right? Then you're going to write different case here, So the first one is, what is that, increase, right? And return it, return object, same formula, So you're going to return the object has a count, which will take the state value. So state.count and just add 1, right? Done. That is first case. Then you're going to have second case, right? Case, if decrease, decrease, right? And then return again, same thing, same here, So that is the same if else, right? We're using the case switch statement, okay? And if there is like default, right? If there is, in case of, what is that, default, right? Then you just return maybe error, something like that. New, I don't know, maybe just error, right? How you write default case? Not like that, just a default, right? So I'm outside of that statement, must be inside, okay? Must be inside the switch. Okay, fine, right? So let's test now. The important is in increase and decrease. This name must be correct, and it will do the job, right? Same if else replacement. So refresh the page, increase working, decrease working, right? I mean, there will be no anything to click. So always you're going to get either increase or decrease, right? Okay, so, I added one example right here for your more complex example for useReducer hook shopping cart, right? If you look at here, this is a product for just dummy product, right? Just imagine you are in the website and you're clicking something. These are the product, okay? Simple product, right? See the initial state, you have a shopping cart and the total value of the cart also, right? Because in the shopping cart, you're gonna add a lot of product. Okay, so each product can have quantity, price, but also you want to calculate the total of that shopping cart. So that's the format of our initial state, right? The cart reducer. So you can call it anything, right? Basically, this is the reducer function which we had earlier. Reducer function that will have an initial state and the action, right? And then you're gonna do the switch cases for each action. Okay, so there are many switch cases here. If there is something error, you can just return default, right? Whatever default, Now this is the component shopping cart useReducer. That is the cart reducer function here. This function has the all logic adding to the product. I mean, adding inside the cart, removing, updating, whatever, right? I mean, I don't think there is many few things, right? Just add or remove, delete. Let's say what filter cart, update cart, right? Basically, that's the like add item. That is one case. Remove item, right? Second case. And clear cart. That is third case. Okay. So there is 3 functionality. Now you can see initial state cart reducer, that function. You have dispatch and state, simple. Now you're gonna start basically see earlier we had on click, right? And then we added the function there on the callback. Okay. But you can write that function separately here also, right? 3 functions, and just this is a callback function. Just call it like this, right? So for example, add item to cart. So here, let's see, add, look at here, right? On click, callback function, and just add item to cart, right? And you pass that product as a value. Okay. So remember, now we need a product, right? When you adding something to the cart, so you have to get product from your, this is dummy product right now. Loop through that and get the product, right? Similarly, you're gonna have a remove and basically what is that? Remove and the total, right? Here all the functionality added. Just try to understand, because Monday, right? We will be working with the the state management, right? One of the library. So there I'm gonna maybe what I will do, I'll just gonna take one, I think the API, right? I think there is dummy API for e-commerce, right? Something like that. Fake API, dummy JSON, something, I don't know where is that, but maybe this one, right? So product. Okay, so you're gonna find a lot of product here, right? So output, see that there is some products. Okay, so we're gonna maybe just use this API and then make simple, like we have all the product here, right? Just display that in a page and then click the add button and then understand, right, this logic. Okay, this is using use reducer, right? But we're gonna learn our our library to handle the complex state. But trust me, useReducer is also very powerful. Okay, if you have simple project, right, you just use this one to handle your complex state, right? And that should do the job. So we're going to use this, maybe this also, and other one also, right, to learn. Okay guys, so let me stop here. If you have any question, you can ask, right?